This is one of the best looking crowds we've had in a long time. I hope you took advantage of the free headshot photos. And so at these events, the first thing I like to do is kind of orient you to all of the resources that we have here at NC Biotech for job seekers. These are all just screenshots of our website. And as someone looking for your next opportunity, when you come to our website, you can go to the jobs and training tab at the top, along the top there, and it'll open up this dashboard. And from here, you can get to most of the things I'm going to be talking about. So I first want to tell you about our jobs board. We call it our career center, and it's likely to change in the next couple of months. We're going to be moving from this platform to another one, so the look is probably going to be different. But the unique things about our jobs board are that these are going to be jobs only in North Carolina and only biotech related. So this is a great place to look if you're wanting to stay in the area. You can set up alerts on our jobs board, put in criteria of jobs that you're looking for, and you'll get an email alert to tell you when jobs that fit those criteria come up. The other great thing about our jobs board is that it's very inexpensive for companies to post their jobs to our jobs board. So you're going to see jobs at maybe a startup company or a company that doesn't have a lot of funding to post on Indeed or Monster.com or some of the bigger jobs boards. The next thing I want to make you aware of is our company directory. And this information on our company directory is kept up to date by our group of research librarians. This company directory lists all of the biotech-related companies in the state of North Carolina. This number's over 600. So you can search this by region. You can search by, let's say you're interested in RNA technology. You can type that into the search bar. It'll bring up all the companies that are doing that kind of work. And it can be a really good way to make up a list, like a list of target companies for your job search. The company directory has links to all of the company's websites and provides a little bit more information about each company. So that can be a great tool. Then our Career Development Network webpage. This lists upcoming sessions, but also past sessions with links to the recordings of those sessions. And so it's just a wealth of information about everything related to career search and job search. And then at NC Biotech, we support a bunch of different networking groups. We call them intellectual exchange groups. In the Triangle area, we have over 20 of these groups, and they have all different focus areas from plant molecular biology to biomanufacturing and process development, women in bio, regulatory affairs, science writers, pretty much anything you're interested in, you can find a group that's focused on that. And they have regular networking events, and we encourage participation from industry, academia, and government at these events. So it's a great way to network. Our workforce development group publishes a newsletter called The Dish, comes out every other week, and they regularly mention companies that are hiring and other things related to training opportunities, just news about the industry and different resources. So I encourage you to sign up for that. And then we have a LinkedIn group that you can join. Currently, it's the NC Life Sciences Career Community is what it's called. And we make posts to this group regularly. And then you can leverage LinkedIn by joining this group because there are 2,000 members of this LinkedIn group. So you're going to really broaden your social reach by joining this group. And then we have a whole bunch of upcoming events that I thought you might be interested in. So on April 22nd, right, we have a virtual North Carolina Biotech Life Sciences Marketing Group. So if you're interested in marketing, this is a great event to attend. These are held monthly. And I can't remember the focus of this particular event, but yeah, Pearl, it's
we'll see if there we go. The focus of the next event is on building communities online. So it's going to be with Rebecca Meal from Meal Creative, who is wonderful and helped us with our LinkedIn group.
Ah, thank you, Pearl. Yeah. Then the next day on the 23rd in the evening is the NC Bio Network Spring Career Fair. This is for people interested in jobs in the biomanufacturing industry. And this is primarily for graduates of the Bio Network program. So, but even if you haven't gone through that program, you're welcome to come to that event. On April 24th, the North Carolina Regulatory Affairs Forum. This is one of the intellectual exchange groups that we support. So if you're interested in a career in regulatory affairs, that's a great way to get out and meet people in that part of the industry. This is an annual event. The BPD Cell and Gene Therapies Symposium and Vendor Show will take place on April 25th, which is next Monday. And this is an all-day event. It's held at the Friday Center. And so if you're interested in cell and gene therapy, careers in those areas, they have talks all day long and a vendor show as well. On May 1st, we have a free virtual Informing Innovation event. This is put on by our research librarians here at the center. And this is focused on using our company directory and other free resources here at the center for business. And there might be some career-related topics that they'll get into, but that'll be a great event. It's only an hour long and it's virtual. Our next Career Development Network event will be on May 15th. And the topic will be career pivoting. So we'll have a panel of people who have pivoted careers in the life sciences industry. And so that'll be a good event. And then the next day on the 16th, we have the Plant Molecular Biology Spring Retreat here at the center. This is usually a retreat either at the beach or in the mountains. This is the first year that they're having it here at the Biotech Center. So lots of different things to that you might be interested in. So at this point, I'd like to introduce our speaker. Patrick Brandt is Director of Career Development and Outreach at UNC Chapel Hill. He leads career development initiatives for biomedical PhD students, including the Impact Internship Program for senior trainees. He also coordinates the Translational Medicine Training Program for students interested in clinically relevant research. As Science Outreach Director, Patrick oversees NC-DNA Day, which is a yearly event, and other efforts aimed at connecting scientists to the public. So Patrick grew up in upstate New York. He attended University of Rochester School of Medicine, where he earned a PhD in biochemistry. He came down to North Carolina to work at NIEHS as a postdoc. And then he joined the Office of Graduate Education at UNC in 2008. A fun fact about Patrick is that he loves trees, and he actually has his own tree climbing company called Piedmont Tree Climbing, where he teaches people how to climb trees. And he's an arborist, and an offshoot of his tree climbing business is that he rescues cats from trees. He has this wonderful video showing him rescuing all these probably hundreds of cats from trees. So with that, I'd like to like for you to join me in giving Patrick a warm welcome.
All right, well, hello, everybody, and thanks, Susan, for the invitation to be here and for the nice introduction. And I'm excited to be talking with you today about LinkedIn, which we'll be pulling up here in just a second. It's going to be a very hands-on workshop. So if you happen to have LinkedIn on your phone, you can feel free to pull that out. You'll be able to maybe do some of the things, or at least remind yourself of some of the functionality of LinkedIn. The web version or the app version for the phone is quite good. If you have your laptop, feel free to pull that out too. So, yeah, the Wi-Fi. At the back, there is the information about the Wi-Fi.
And the password is NC Life Sciences. NC, L, and S are all capital.
All right, and just one caveat as Susan mentioned, I'm used to working with grad students and postdocs. That's the population I work with most regularly. And those are grad students and postdocs in the life sciences. I have a feeling there's probably a lot of overlap in the life science interest among the population that's here and online as well. But I just wanted to point that out. So hopefully I can share information that'll be valuable no matter what sector of you're searching for positions in. All right, so I need to get my notes out. And I understand that there are quite a few people online as well, or on Zoom. And so Pearl is going to be monitoring the chat for questions from the online group. And we welcome interaction. I welcome interaction from everybody here. Feel free to just raise your hand as we're going through, and I'd be happy to answer any questions. And also feel free to, those who are online, to put questions in the chat, and Pearl's going to be monitoring that, and I'll try to pause regularly so that we can get content from or questions from those that are online. All right, so how many of you have a LinkedIn profile already? Raise your hand if you have a LinkedIn profile. Okay, good. All right. How many of you have had a LinkedIn profile for more than a year? All right, perfect. And how many of you have more than 100 connections on LinkedIn? All right, so we got a pretty good crowd here. You guys may be able to teach each other and may have comments about things or functionality in LinkedIn that I might not know about. And I'll be sharing some things, but I also welcome input and feedback from those who are in the audience. So most of you, then we have a lot of expertise in LinkedIn already here. You understand probably that it's a great way to get information about not only just individuals, but about companies as well. And so LinkedIn is also a great way to be able to curate and keep track of the people that you've met at conferences or at networking events or at different parts in different stages of your career. And it's a great way to be able to keep up with those people, because sometimes it can be a challenge to remember all of the people that you've met in a professional capacity. And LinkedIn is a really good tool for being able to keep track of people, being able to message people, being able to see what others are up to when they have a job change. They're often going to be messages or alerts that'll come across your newsfeed when that happens. There are a few limitations to LinkedIn. One is that it's not used as much in academia or by academics. I imagine that many of you are probably interested in the for-profit or nonprofit sector. And so I have found, especially in the life sciences, that the vast majority of people who I network with or grad students who go on into industry or postdocs who go on to industry positions, almost all of them have a LinkedIn profile that's usually kept up to date. So I'm going to show a few different things that are And I just noticed that the trackpad is opposite of what I'm used to. So hopefully I can get used to this on the podium computer. But if you see me going the wrong way for the first 5 minutes, that's why. But I wanted to talk about some of the easy things that you can do to make your profile a little bit more professional, as well as some more complex things as we get in. And I'm again open for any questions that you might have about how you can better utilize LinkedIn. So if you click on your LinkedIn profile, one of the first things that we're going to talk about is how to make a custom URL. So up here, you see that my URL has the suffix Patrick D. Brandt. Now, if you are looking at your profile and it has maybe Patrick D. Brandt and then it has a hyphen and a whole bunch of weird numbers, that's just your automatically created or assigned LinkedIn URL. And so you can change that if you haven't already done so. And you can do that by clicking on Public Profile and URL over here. And this opens up the option to edit your custom URL. This is where you would go. And if you haven't done this before, then it'll have whatever your originally assigned URL suffix is. And you can check to see if your name might be available. Now, if you have a common name, then you might have to get creative and put numbers or put your middle name or middle initials or something like that, or put PhD in there if you have or whatever your degree might be. But this is a nice way that when if you're linking to your LinkedIn profile on your resume or on a personal website, it looks a little more professional if it's clear, if the suffix is a little bit more personalized to you. How many of you have done that already on your LinkedIn profile? Okay, all right, we're going to be able to move quickly, I can tell. All right, so many of you probably also well, I know that a big part of the event today was getting professional headshots. So that's another important thing you can do to make your profile stand out. You can also make your own banner here. So LinkedIn will create kind of a stylized color gradient by default, but you can do lots of different things with this. So I'll show you my colleague. Oops, I'm also going to have to get used to the keyboard apparently. So Becca Layton did something where she created a background picture and then put some words that were indicative of her career path. So there's lots of ways that you can utilize that banner right there. Going back a little bit, there are some things also that you can do, some nice functionality that LinkedIn has created in the last couple of years. One of those is that you can put your pronouns here if you want to. You can also record yourself saying your name. So if you have a name that people are always butchering, or if people are always asking you, how do you pronounce your name? Then you can record yourself saying it. And even so, sometimes I think that my name's fairly easy to pronounce, but sometimes people who are coming from a different culture or a different language, they might not know how to pronounce my name. And so I like to have that there. And the way that you would do this is by clicking on that, what is it called? That little pencil there. And then I believe it's down here. Let's see. Or maybe I have to click on it. Oh, here it is, your audio recording. And so I would have to delete it, I guess, to be able to record another one. All right, let's see. All right, the reason I asked you how long most of you have had your LinkedIn profile, and Susan mentioned that I really love trees. So one of my favorite analogies or axioms about planting a tree is that the best time to plant a tree is 20 years ago, but the second best time is today. So the same holds true when you are growing your network. The best time to be growing your network is before you need it, so 5-10 years ago, but the next best time is today. So I'm glad that you're all here as part of this networking event, and I hope that you'll take the opportunity to connect with those that are around you on LinkedIn. I also invite you to connect, any of you who are here, to connect with me. Sometimes people ask the question, what is the right LinkedIn etiquette? Like, how well do I have to know somebody before I can connect with them on LinkedIn? And my take on that, which might not be the same as everybody else's, is if you've met somebody either in person, for sure, that would be a good time to connect with them. If you're a colleague, obviously as well, if you have emailed with somebody, then I also will often make a connection via LinkedIn. I generally don't make connections with people who I don't have, who the only reason I might be interested in them is because they work at a certain company. I think that those often can get flagged as spam, and they can come back and hurt your ability to be able to utilize LinkedIn in the future. So I would just say reaching out to somebody who has something in common with you, and always remembering to make a personalized note when you connect with them is a good idea as well. Yeah. Yeah. So for example, would somebody who knows that they're not connected with me be willing to shout out their name so I can do a search for you? Okay. What was your first name? Traec? Blackwell? Oops. Let's see. Let's see if we can find you. Is this you? All right, awesome. So Tracy Lynn and I are not connected. And so the way to be able to connect with this, someone that you're not already connected with, is to so in this case, so sometimes it'll say follow. That's different than connecting. And so you would want to go to here, to more, and then connect. And then here's where you have the option to add a note. And then I could write in here, like, for example, nice seeing you at the NCBC event. And then you can click on send, and then that will send the invitation. Now, one thing to your point or your question, Susan, when you click on the My Network, this also is a great way to be able to grow your network. And maybe some of you are already in the audience, are already sending me requests. So that is awesome. So if you come down here to, if you scroll down in the My Network tab, you can find people who have things in common with you. And so, for example, this is a student I know, and but if I click on here, it doesn't give me the option to write a note. And I know I'm pretty sure that Harrison will not mind if I do that. But if I wanted to be sure that I could write a note to this person, for example, instead of connecting through that button, I can click on them and then go to, and then so sometimes, like I said, sometimes the follow is not the same as connect. And so if I click on connect here, then I would be able to have the option of writing a note to Jack. All right, so thank you, Susan, for that question. Are there other questions? Yes.
Can you go pluses and minuses of premium versus standard, and getting verification versus non-verification?
Yes.
Patrick.
So verification, well, I'll talk about the premium versus non-premium first. And you might have noticed that I don't have a premium account. I think it's like $90 a month. Does anybody know currently? Oh, okay, so the pricing sounds like it may have changed, because at one point I was surprised at how expensive it was. So I believe that the main advantage, and since I am not a premium member, others that may have looked into this more recently may be able to provide more detail, but it allows you to be able to message people directly. That's probably the main reason that's beneficial. It also allows you to be able to see who is looking at your profile, which can be helpful if you're in a job hunt. Is there any other benefits that people have found from signing up for the premium account? Oh, and just as a reminder, we'll pass around the microphone to those in this audience, because the people who are on Zoom won't be able to hear any comments unless you have the microphone. So go ahead.
In the example you just gave of the personalized note, if you have a free version, it's a very low number. So I think in yours you had 4 remaining personalized notes available. But when you go to premium, it increases that number. So that's another advantage as well.
Okay, good. And so I wonder if that for the non-free version or for the free version, does that cycle every month? Do you know? Okay, all right. All right, any other suggestions or things that people have found helpful in the premium membership? Yes. Tracy Lynn? Oh yeah, thank you for waiting for the microphone. Pearl's gonna get her exercise.
I just wanted to mention also with the messaging, if you're looking for a job and it shows you the hiring manager, you can directly message the hiring manager. There's also AI capability because it can help you type that message to the manager.
Okay, very nice. Very good. And then the other question was about verification. And I believe that the verification is done via email. So it's looking at your, whether, like, for example, if I say that I'm at UNC Chapel Hill, it's going to look to see if I have a .unc email. But I'm also not an expert on the verification process, and it was not at all hard. So the verification is this little shield right here. And it was not at all difficult for me to get verification. So it probably, my guess is that it's a method to try to like get rid of like duplicate accounts or bot accounts or things like that. Does anybody have any comments on the verification process or how that's been helpful or to them?
I did have a question come in online related to this, which is how can we make the most of LinkedIn's job search features and networking without having a premium account? So thinking about specific strategies or filters that would work well on the free version, given that it does have limited features.
Great, yeah. And like I said, we will definitely talk about that. And my experience has been that that LinkedIn is a very powerful and valuable resource definitely with the free basic version. I am curious to know if you have the premium version, are there fewer ads in your feed? Because that is probably one of the most annoying things I find about LinkedIn is that sometimes when I go to my feed, sometimes every other post can feel like an ad. So, so being a premium member, I guess, probably doesn't take away those ads. All right. Okay, good. So yeah, so I will get to that question from the online attendee. All right. One thing also I wanted to point out. Oh, actually, two things before we go much further. The About section in your LinkedIn profile has, it's interesting because although you can only see 4 lines, you can add a lot more material. And actually, for an About section that you think would be relatively, like you don't really need to put a whole lot of information in there, they actually allow you 2,600 characters. And so there is a person, so we had a LinkedIn employee come to UNC and talk to the grad students and the postdocs. And his suggestion and the valuable advice that he gave was that you should maximize your About section, the content that you have in your About section, because when in the LinkedIn search algorithm, prioritizes wording that's in the About section. So you might even want to have a skills or specialties section in your About section. So the algorithm is going to bring your profile hits up above somebody who only has a few sentences in that About section. All right, the other thing I wanted to be sure to talk about was the visibility settings that are if you click on your picture here and click on settings and privacy, I would encourage you, unless you have a reason to be particularly cautious, to make sure that your profile photo shows when you are, even to people who are not connected to you directly. This is helpful because if you go to a conference or if you go to an event like this and someone is like, oh, I think I talked to that person, but I can't really remember if that was the person I talked to or not, a face can often jog that memory. And so the way that you would do that is by going to settings and then show profile photos of all LinkedIn members can see your profile photos. Sometimes people have it as just your connections. All right. The other thing that I think is important is under visibility. Some of these are not as important as others. But the one that I wanted to point out was, let's see if I can find it here. Oh, your last name. So again, this is important in my opinion, because sometimes people will see you at an event like this, they'll remember your name tag, or they might have a list of the attendees that presented at a conference. And if you don't have your last name visible, it can be harder for someone to connect with you. So unless you have a compelling reason to be a little bit more guarded, I would say to be sure that your last name is visible to all members on LinkedIn. All right.
So Patrick, I had a question. I know in the past, we were told to turn off, like letting all of your network know when you're making changes to your profile. Turn that off, make all the changes you want to make, then turn it back on. Does that still
I
stand?
still think that's good advice, yeah.
Okay.
Especially if you're somebody like me who tweaks their profile a lot, or like sometimes I do workshops and I change something just so that people can see the process for what it looks like, and that would trigger a change. So I keep that setting turned off all the time, actually. But if you were, I mean, I think that probably a more beneficial way, if you wanted to let people know that you're on the job market, or if you wanted to let people know that you've gotten a promotion, then I would make a post. And so a really great way to do that is just to go, well, let me show that more slowly. How many of you in the audience have created a post on LinkedIn? All right, so a little more than half, so great. If you haven't yet, this is a good thing to do. You can, and also a low bar would be to reshare other people's posts that you agree with or that you're excited about or that you want to share their information. But you can start a post and you can either have it post to anyone, or you can have it post to just your connections or even just a particular group. And then you can upload pictures, you can upload a job if you're a hiring manager. You can even write an article. So actually, I want to show you an article that just came across my news feed recently for somebody who I'm connected with, and Jessica Harrell, who wrote this post. And actually, let's see how I get to it. Okay, so one thing that she's really passionate about is pancreatic cancer and funding for pancreatic cancer. And so she wrote not just a post, but a whole, basically a white paper or an op-ed kind of about this thing that is really important to her. And so she posted that on her feed and then is getting comments and information about that coming back.
Patrick?
So this is a really good way to be able to kind of get your online personality out there in a professional way. Yeah.
So sorry. Jumping back to the setting about that tells people when you've changed your profile. Somebody online was just wondering if you could show how to turn that setting off.
Yes. Let me see if I can find it. I'm not sure if I'll be able to locate it quickly, but let's see if we can find it together perhaps. Okay, thank you. And profile viewing options. Let me know if you see it before I do. Visibility of your LinkedIn activity. Manage active status. Notify connections when you're in the news, mentioned by others, followers. I guess it's this one right here. Share job changes, educational changes, and work anniversaries from profile. Let's see what options there are. Okay, so this is interesting, but this is probably, now it says that you can share key profile updates. So it used to be that the advice was you would trigger a lot of different updates to people if you were just like changing the wording, maybe of the bullet points underneath an area, a job where you've worked. But it looks like now they have it so that they are just going to maybe only show title changes or something like that. Yeah, so thank you for that question and for helping me find that spot here. Okay, I wanted to show, well, first of all, I want this to be as useful as possible for everybody here. And there's not enough time in a 1 hour workshop to really be able to get into all of the functionality of LinkedIn. But I think it is helpful to look at what profile sections are available. So if you click on here, of course, there's education, your current position and past positions. You can add services. It's also nice that LinkedIn has added a career break. So if you take a break to care for someone, a family member, then you can add that in and have it be an explanation of why you were not in the job force during that time. You can add skills. And then there are these other, so those are all of the ones that I just mentioned are in the core area. So the recommended things that you might want to utilize. There are also other sections. So you can have a featured section. I'll show you what that looks like in just a minute. That's featured posts that you've made. You can elevate certain posts that you've made on your feed, and they will appear in your profile. You can add licenses and certifications, courses you've taken, projects you've been a part of. And then the neat thing about being on these projects is if the other people on the project were also in LinkedIn, you can tag them or they can tag you. So that way you can add different specific projects that you've worked on. And then under additional, there are lots of other things: volunteer experience, publications, patents. Pretty much all of these are going to have opportunities to link to, for example, a publication on PubMed or wherever hopefully it's on a free version of, that's something that's not behind a paywall. And languages, organizations, and causes even. So let me show you how I've utilized some of those. So here's that featured section. I have, when we published a preprint recently, I put that in my featured section. I should probably go through and curate this featured section because some of these are a little bit older posts that I've made. And then, of course, you're going to have your experience in your current positions. You can also put links or you can put media in here as well. So this is one way that you could do that. Licenses and certifications. Here's that project I was mentioning. So you can have multiple projects, but you can see which other contributors or other collaborators were in there. Skills used to be more popular like years ago in LinkedIn. Like 4 or 5 years ago, there was a big emphasis on like putting your careers on there, and then people could endorse your careers, endorse your skills. It got to be that everybody was just endorsing everybody, so it became somewhat meaningless, and so that is not as highly utilized anymore. But recommendations are still a good way that you can both give kudos to somebody you've worked with, and also at the same time, you can, by giving somebody a recommendation, they will in turn make a recommendation for you. And this is a nice way to be able to have other people's opinions of you on your LinkedIn profile. And when someone writes a recommendation for you, you'll be able to review it before it is published, which is nice in case they don't say nice things about you. All right. So are there any other types or any other elements of your LinkedIn profile that you want to either ask questions about or that have worked well for you?
In the aspect of certifications that you just previously showed, let's say you have skills and you've been able to acquire multiple certifications and you added the skills. At some point for me, I couldn't add any more skills. So do you have any?
So did you max out the number of skills that you were allowed to add?
Yeah,
Is that what you mean?
yes, I believe so.
Okay, good. Well, I don't know what that max was. Do you remember what it was?
Well, it stated about 100.
Okay. My guess is that you could probably cycle some of them off if you wanted to focus on others that were more relevant. But I haven't gotten to that. I haven't utilized that section enough to be able to max out the number. Maybe one thing that you could do, let's see so this one I only have one endorsement for. I wonder if I can just delete that one. Yeah, I could delete it.
Okay.
You probably wouldn't want to delete ones that people have endorsed you for in many different areas, but yeah, good question. I didn't realize that could be an issue. All right, was there another question? Yes.
Yes, I have a question. So I put open to work on my profile, but only for recruiters. And I've noticed that I receive less recruiters versus when I put open to work to the public. Do you know if there's a certain algorithm with that?
I don't know how that algorithm works. And I know that there are people who, I know that there are varying opinions about whether it's to your benefit to have the open to work. I think that if you are literally in between jobs and you're not currently employed, there's probably not much of a downside to having open to work on that everybody can see. Sometimes the question that I often get from grad students or postdocs is it okay for me to say that I'm open to work if I'm finishing up my program? That's a little bit more, that's the answer is probably yes to that as well. But if you're currently employed, then that's probably the reason that they have that open to work only to recruiters, because you may not want your colleagues or your boss or your supervisor to know. And so that's probably the main reason, but I don't know how the algorithm works. But I'd be curious to know if other people who have tried that setting have noticed the same thing that you have, which is that there seem to get fewer recruiter emails or messages. Has anybody else noticed that?
Yet again, such that you have to.
Oh, cool, fancy. So the algorithm has changed recently such that you have to engage with LinkedIn for longer periods of time and put more content in for recruiters to see you. This is just like a few weeks to a few months old. Like it's
very good.
very, very recent.
Does
and
that mean more posts, or do you?
It's not just more posts and
Okay.
reposts. It has to be like long, thoughtful, insightful posts, and I mean I don't, not everybody necessarily has that type of time because life happens.
Yeah.
So it's kind of I have thoughts, and I'll just leave it at that, I think.
Well, your thoughts may be similar to my initial response to that, which is that the way LinkedIn makes money is by keeping people on this screen. And because that's where the ads are. Ah. Uh-huh. Interesting. Uh-huh. Yeah, which is interesting because, yeah, I mean, there are other types of social media that are focused on that. Yeah.
Well, two questions. First question is, how do you figure out what the algorithms are? Is it listed somewhere? And then my second question is, at the very top of your page, you have University of Rochester and UNC there. How is that selected? Do you have an option to select what you want beside your information there?
Do you mean up here at the top? Oh, okay. These are really good questions, ones that I had not thought about. So I did not do anything to add these here. So I guess they're just there because I have those as my educations.
Yeah, it automatically adds your education, and it's your most recent to education. So if you have a certificate that you did, but then you have, let's say, a bachelor's and a master's, but your certificate is the most recent, it will still put that certificate at the top. But you have the ability to, I haven't had to change it, but I think you can edit that. But yes, those are just where you've had your degrees.
And then the algorithm question, I don't know the answer to that one either, but I wonder if either of the people who are talking about the algorithms might have a comment on how they learned those details.
To answer your question, I tried it. I started adding posts on my LinkedIn, and I've been getting tons of recruiters look at my page. So when I get back home today, I'm going to send one. And I think the number is 3 posts per week based on my research. If you can do it, because I've been getting emails even after I began doing that, because lots of traffic will come to your, based on how the algorithm works on LinkedIn.
So it sounds like LinkedIn is rewarding those that create content that keeps people on the site. And so they're making your visibility higher to the recruiters because they understand that's valuable to you. So you're doing something that's valuable for them, and then you're getting something valuable in return. My guess is there's probably a Reddit subreddit about LinkedIn, and then I bet that's where you could find information, some of it verifiable and others not, about some of this more under the surface stuff. Yes. Oh, is that right?
Also, fancy. So there are two people that I follow on LinkedIn just as part of what I call building the life raft in the event that I get kicked unceremoniously off the island. RIFs, layoffs, etc. So one of the people that I follow is Emily Warden. And so she actually does a lot of that. She'll post a lot, like a ton of content on building up, not just, staying within the confines of whatever new changes to the algorithm of the day, but ultimately leveraging this as your brand, right? This is your professional brand. This is who you are. I'm not just a scientist, but a professor, a teacher, someone who saves cats from trees. Adam Karpiak is another individual that I follow that also has like the goods on
for the
LinkedIn
benefit of
intel.
the other people that are listening in, I want to, those sound like good advice. Those sound like good suggestions. So did I have Emily Warden's name spelled correctly, or is it Wharton?
And while you're pulling that up, Patrick, somebody online, shout out to Jeffrey, has corrected me. The UNC Chapel Hill is where Patrick is employed. University of Rochester is his most recent education.
Okay. All right, thank you for that. Okay, so then the other person was Karpiak. What's the first name? Oops, I'm in jobs, I guess. Sorry, my typing is not very good on this. All right, so in case you all wanted to follow those two, this is what they look like. All right. I want to be sure to leave time for a tool that maybe new to you and I think is very valuable, which is the alumni tool. How many of you have experience with using the alumni tool on LinkedIn? Okay, all right. So I think that this will, I definitely want to spend some time on that. And just as a little bit of background to that, so the besides using LinkedIn to find information about companies, so just like every person has a page, every company has a page, and companies generally are posting content to their LinkedIn feeds. And those of you that are on the job market or that have tried to find information about companies based on their website know that it's very difficult to find up-to-date information from a company's website. Usually, or sometimes that's because they are just very cagey about what they put on their website. Sometimes it's because it's not a dynamic setting, and so there's not really a mechanism for them to be able to frequently update their website. So their feed on LinkedIn can be a good way to get a sense of what is the culture of the company like, or at least what are they trying to convey, because it's going to, of course, be curated to what they want you to think about their company. But I find that you can get a lot of recent and good information, including press releases and other things from the company website, the company LinkedIn profile. A corollary to that is that LinkedIn is really good for finding information and finding people who you can have informational interviews with. And how many of you are familiar with the concept of an informational interview? Sometimes it's called different things by different people. So many of you are. So the idea is that if you have an ideal job or an ideal company that you'd like to work for, it can be really beneficial to talk to somebody at that company, or maybe somebody who has recently left that company, to be able to get information from them and see if your perception of the ideal nature of that job or your perception of that company is true to somebody's experience who has worked there or done that career path. And so sometimes it can be hard to find the people who to do informational interviews with. Partly because maybe your network is not super robust, and so, or maybe it's because you're pivoting and you don't have the connections in the area that you want to go to. So the alumni tool can be really beneficial, a way of making, instead of a cold contact to somebody on LinkedIn, it's a way of making a warm contact with somebody because you have something in common like your alma mater. So it doesn't matter how long ago you graduated. If you search for pretty much any university on here, I'll put in University of Rochester. you can, and actually, you don't even have to have gone to that university. You can still get the benefit of the alumni tool. So if I click on the University of Rochester, then it brings up a page that's very similar to a person's page or to a company's page. And if you click on alumni right here, it opens up a series of filters so that you can see if there are fellow alums of your alma mater who might have a soft spot in their heart for a fellow U of R alum that you could reach out to, and in that way you're not making a totally cold contact. So as you look at this, you see that there are 69,000 alumni. You can limit it by the year that they started or ended. And you can limit it also by where they work currently, where they live, and then what they do, what they're skilled at. Plus, you can also search title. So say I was interested in medical science liaisons. Then I could do a search for that. And so from 69,000, it went down to 45 alums. And when you scroll down, this is going to be the hits. So you'll notice that these are people who I'm not connected with as a first order connection. But and I guess this also comes back to the question of like, when is LinkedIn Premium beneficial? So in order to reach out to these people, like say I wanted to reach out to this person and ask about what it's like to be a medical science liaison at AbbVie, and I could say, I could reach out, adding a note. Well, or if you have something in common with them, that's also okay to do, in my opinion. So if you haven't, like, reaching out to somebody that you have no connection with whatsoever is probably not a great idea, although people do it, and it might be beneficial for you. You might have to do it, but your chances of getting ignored or even reported by them are higher. But it's not likely to happen if you write a note saying to somebody that you're a fellow alum of the same school or even the same program. But so I appreciate your comment. Anyway, I'm not going to use up one of my invitations to do this, but that's how you would connect with that person. And then once you're connected, then you can message them and ask for a time to chat with them via Zoom or Teams or by phone or whatever. Let me go back to the alumni tool and show you. You can also drill down. So if I've drilled down so far that's probably not really worth doing it. So I'm going to clear this right here. But you could like look for all of the people who are in a certain area, like Raleigh, and just see what other University of Rochester alums there are in this area. And you can then drill down as well for what they do in research, for example. So now we're at 17. And if I scroll down further, I'll see all of the people who match the criteria that I've outlined in that basically an advanced search. Any questions about this alumni tool and how you might be able to utilize it? And Pearl, I'm also pausing to see if there are any questions from the chat. Okay.
I do have a question, kind of going back to profiles a little bit, of how effective is it to include X company A, X company B in your LinkedIn headline if you're looking to leverage experiences with well-known brands, for example, a Fortune 500 company? Does it add credibility, or is it better to focus on your role or value proposition instead?
All right, I think they're asking about the headline right here. So I believe that the question is, should you put companies that you've worked for in the headline? That's a good question. I think you certainly could. The way that I choose to use my headline is, like, some people will put in their current title here. And so it could be like, I might put in Director of Career Development, UNC Chapel Hill. But I like to see this as, what am I more than just my current title? And so I feel I identify as a scientist. I'm a trainee advocate, and I like to connect people. And And so those are the words that I choose to put in my headline. But if you think that it would be beneficial, my guess is that in the algorithm, it might promote words that are in your headline. So if you had like regulatory affairs professional, and you could even certainly put in somebody that current or past employers there as well. But I don't have a strong opinion on that one. Yeah. So one other thing that I want to show before we finish is that say you were really wanting to work at a certain company and you didn't, or you want to learn about a certain company and you don't have any connections that are there. And so let's say, is there a company in the, say again? Standard process. Okay, let me see if I can find that. And I'll see if I can spell it first. Standard process. All right, is it this one? Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on their company page, and I'm seeing that they have, okay, so they have between 500 and 1,000 employees. And it looks like I actually do have a connection there, but you might not. And so what you can do is, if you click on the employees that are there, it opens up the advanced search window up here. And one really valuable thing that you can do, well, there's a couple different ways you can look at this. You could find, like, say that you were looking for a research scientist position there. And you can look down here to see who shared connections are, and you could ask for a connection to that person based on on the other people that you might be connected with. An easier way to do that, though, is by clicking on all filters, and you can search for the connections of a certain person. So if you know that maybe there's a career mentor or somebody who has a lot of connections who you know well, and this is something that I use and that I offer to all of you. So I have over 4,000 connections. Lots of them are in the North Carolina biotech area in the sector, but they are generally in the life sciences and also throughout the United States. And so once you all connect with me, since I invite you to, I'll do that since we've met in person, or at least on Zoom also, then you can type in the connections of a given person. And so I can't search my own connections here, but I could put in my colleague, Becca Layton. And and you can only do this for one, actually, add a connection. Interesting. It used to be until very recently, you could only do this for one person, but now let's say I put in Susan Langford. This is, okay, so it's only allowing me to actually search by one now. Okay, so that looks like it hasn't changed like I thought it was. But anyway, you can click on show results, and then it'll show you if there are any people at standard process that Becca knows, that then I could ask Becca for a connection to that person. So again, that is most valuable if there's somebody that you know well, who you know would introduce you to anybody that you ask them to, and if they have a lot of connections. But going back to here, I just do want to show another thing under all filters. Sometimes it's really valuable to talk to people who are no longer at the company that you're interested in. And so instead of having the current company be standard process, I'm going to put that the past company was standard process, because sometimes people don't feel like they can speak openly when they're currently working for a company. And so here I've got a bunch of people who I'm a second order connection to. And so I could see, okay, well, Sean Eakins, I know Sean pretty well. I'm going to see if he can introduce me to this person so that I can ask about their experience working at standard process. Now, it is important to confirm. Sometimes, okay, so they really did actually work for standard process. Sometimes people show up that in the past company search that may have been like a company was acquired or merged or something like that. And so it's just a good idea to double check on that. So hopefully I've shared with you some things, or the audience has shared with you some things that are useful for you, and that maybe things that you hadn't known about before as far as LinkedIn functionality. We have just a few minutes left. I want to see if there's a burning question that anybody wants to ask, or a resource that someone has found really helpful within LinkedIn that they want to share with the audience.
So I'm a grad student about ready to head on to the job market, and I've heard the advice that like if you're applying for a job, you should reach out to the hiring manager on LinkedIn. So I'm curious, like, is that still good etiquette? What do you say to the hiring manager? How do you find them even from a job posting? So if you could speak to that, please.
It definitely is still good advice. It's a good idea to try to figure out who the hiring manager is and see if you can maybe ask somebody that you might know at that company to convey your resume and your interest in the position to the hiring manager. So it may not always happen through LinkedIn because again, usually you don't have a lot of if you're connecting with them, you don't have many characters to be able to convey something to them. So yes, I would say if you can figure it out, it's a good idea. Sometimes that involves asking the hiring manager, or excuse me, sometimes that involves asking somebody in HR at the company who the hiring manager is. Sometimes they're a little cagey and don't share that. So it's always, again, the tree analogy. It's best to have a large network so that if you're applying to a company where you might know somebody else, even if they're not even in the division that you're applying to, sometimes they can have access to a company directory and be able to get information that can be valuable for you. Sometimes people feel a little like slimy doing that, but what I always tell them is that when somebody at a company conveys, like when they refer somebody to the hiring manager and that person gets hired by the hiring manager, quite often there's a referral bonus to the employee that shared the name of the person. And so there's something in it for the person who you might be asking to do that as well.
Somebody from online jumped in as well to say, I think somebody already mentioned that if you have LinkedIn Premium, it can help you craft a message. But Tasha online has said that ChatGPT can also be a great resource to craft messages to hiring managers.
Great point. Yeah, I use ChatGPT regularly to improve my emails to people, especially if I'm a little concerned about the tone. So yeah, I second that. All right.
I have one question. So for LinkedIn networking events like this, so is there any way to group when you meet people?
The only way that I know how to do that is that when you click on my network and you click on connections, it will put them, you can sort them in this way. So by default, it's by recently added. I wonder, that's a good question, and I haven't really experimented with that very much. I guess this is just opening up, this is by clicking on all filters, it just opened up the advanced search of everybody who I'm who I'm connected to as a first order connection. Does anybody know if there's a way to tag your connections? Let's go back and see. Yeah, that would be a nice feature. But I don't know how to do, I don't know if that's available. Yeah. All right. Well, thank you very much for your attention, and thanks to those that shared advice and experiences from them in the ways that you use LinkedIn. And I look forward to seeing you all on LinkedIn.